Warning, this podcast may contain a lot of balls and bad language and content that some listeners may find offensive.
How many balls?
7.
Are they made of any particular material?
Hard rubber. Welcome to the Seesaw Podcast with T and Cleves.
Each week, offering up a delayed perspective on life. Welcome to another ball-busting episode of Seesaw Podcast. Brought to you from floor 288.
I think that's slightly less than last week.
I don't think it is.
We don't always have to be at the top.
Well, no, we have offices downstairs. So this week, we have another guest. We're guesting it up on here now. So this time around, we are also not just having a guest, we are also re-recording a topic that we did, I think it was episode 2, wasn't it?
It was.
And why didn't we keep that episode, Cleves?
Too good.
It was too good. It would blow your tiny little minds.
By too good, I mean too long and too shit.
This time we're keeping the topic the same and decided to get actually someone on to talk about goalball.
What is goalball?
The year 1946. After giving that pesky Hitler a knuckle sandwich, visually impaired and blind veterans look for a rehabilitation option. The answer? Goalball. A Paralympic sport since 1976. 2 teams of 3 face off on a 12-by-9 court. With all players blindfolded, they have to rely on court markings and an audible ball to succeed in scoring against their opponents. The first to reach a 10-goal lead, or the best of 2 rounds of 12 minutes is the winner. But watch out, this ball can travel up to 60 kilometers an hour and is made of hard rubber. A dangerous sport for any wanting to get involved.
So if that little snippet from the 1940s didn't tell you what goalball is, it's a sport for the visually impaired and blind. You wear blackout shades, and it's quite brutal.
Are they Ray-Bans?
Unfortunately not. I think they are all branded, but I don't think they're Ray-Bans. Ray-Blinds.
What do you do in this game?
You throw balls at each other. There's a giant goal behind each of you. 2 teams of 3. And the aim is to basically roll the ball and get it past your blindfolded opponents to score a goal.
Can you chuck the ball? Like dodgeball style? Or does it have to be
No.
rolled?
You have a halfway line, and if it does not touch the court before that...
Can you bounce it?
You can.
Bounce it hard. So it's like it's like beer pong, but with 3 people and a goal behind.
Essentially, yeah. You are allowed to do that, but I think there are limits on height as well, because you get...
This sport needs a rebrand. If they were all wasted when you did it, like, make it dartsy.
I mean, we could definitely give that a go. I could probably get hold of some goal balls and some blackout shades and get some drunk people.
I'll volunteer for the drunk part.
Well, wear a cup. That's where the cups come in from the beer pong.
All right, today's guest.
Richard. Do you want me to say who he is?
You can actually stick with Richard if you want.
Former international goalball player, 9-year career in goalball. So we've got him on to have a chat about it. Another guest today, and this time we have, well, how to describe Richard? Family man, father, husband.
Just so you know what you're getting at your eulogy.
I don't think I'll be the one doing the eulogy, to be honest. I mean, there's many people queuing up. Well, not queuing up. That's a bad
Thanks.
I'm just trying to think. Like, you've done so much, Rich, and like, I don't want to put any labels on you. So, how about you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm Richard. I'm a father of 5, married for 11 years, registered blind with a small bit of vision. Just, I don't know, living life. Like you do.
Yeah, like even getting you, like, we're grateful for you coming on now, because like even getting you for a brief moment, I know is hectic, especially with the family and all the other things you do.
It's good to have a break.
Well, we'll hopefully have a nice fun one.
Good.
Nice chill session. So, what have we got Richard on today, please?
Talk about goalball.
Talk about goalball. You're quite an accomplished goalball player, aren't you, Rich? Like, when did you start playing?
So I started playing in probably 1999 or 2000. So yeah, I started playing then. Played domestically, sort of in the sort of novice tournaments as they were then for the first couple of years, and worked my way up to the intermediate level, and then to the experienced. I'm sure all the labels of all the levels are different now to when I played, but that's how it was. It was novice, intermediate, and experienced with the three sort of tournament tiers. And then in, I think, 2003, so I'd only been playing for 3 or 4 years, that's when I got my first international call up.
How did you first find out about it?
So I went to New College Worcester, or RNIB New College as it was at the time, and it was just played there in the sort of PE lessons because that's a school for the visually impaired. So I just played there.
And was there somewhere locally after you left there then that you could carry it on?
So when I left there, it did become quite difficult to play domestically, certainly to do training anyway. I mean, I was still playing international after I left there for another 6 years. And apart from the sort of international training sessions, the international tournaments and the domestic tournaments, which I played in with a few of the lads that I played internationally with, there wasn't really much chance or opportunity to play club level where I was living at the level I was at. There was sort of, novice clubs, but I wasn't going to go playing with these sort of youngsters, knocking them about.
Yeah.
Not a good idea. So,
That's one thing I found when I gave it a go, and it was sort of like a mixed bag of everyone there. And a guy in my 30s, and I'm there training with kids, essentially, 14, 15-year-olds. I thought, I'm going to kill someone.
You were thinking, don't hurt me.
To be fair, that first session, I got a blasted lip from one of them. Punks.
There you go.
Yeah, that hurt a lot. But yeah, you get all of it. So you got your call up at school then?
I was still at school, yeah. I was 15, probably.
That is young for international. Was that just up to sort of reserve, or was that like main squad sort of thing?
So it was. I'd been to a couple of international training camps just as a kind of future prospect, I suppose. And then we had like a weekend training session or camp or whatever you want to call it, where they were going to select the squad. And I don't know, I played particularly well in that session, and the coach decided to give me a go. It was a squad of 6 we were taking, which is like the maximum you can take. You have 3 players on a team plus substitutes, so 6 is like the biggest squad. So they took me, I think, as the 6th player initially, but again in the tournament as well, it went rather well for me, and I ended up starting more games than I didn't and finishing as a second top goal scorer in the team. That was me off from there. I was up and running.
How did they come to pick you for the camps in the first place? Did they have like scouts that come round?
I suppose it was from the international coaches would always be at the top level domestic tournaments, and they would just see the players there, because it wasn't like, it's not like a football thing where you're playing matches week in, week out. It's like weekend long tournaments where you play every other team that's at that level in like a sort of round robin tournament. So you were playing sort of tournaments every couple of months rather than matches all the time. So they'd come and see the tournaments, they'd see all the players sort of all at once and see how people were from then, and you'd get your call-ups after that.
And it's, especially I think with VI Sport, it's very sort of like close-knit, isn't it? Like, there's only so many locations, only so many tournaments, and like you get to know everyone really quick. Like, you know who the scouts are, you know the coaches, you know who the players who are doing well at the time. I think it's, once you're entrenched, I think you just get in there, don't you? Like, you end up at your first tournament and you're meeting everyone sort of in that one go, aren't you?
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's the thing. I think it's very different goalball sort of in this country to in many other larger countries, where all our domestic tournaments are national tournaments. All the teams from all the countries participate in all the tournaments, whereas in like the States, it's all sort of interstate championships and so on. So a lot of the players don't, you get a lot of surprises. You get people you don't see all the time, whereas in England, it's all the same people all the time.
Yeah, blessing and a curse.
Yeah, exactly. It is because it's a smaller pool of players you've got to pick from, but everyone's used to playing with each other more. So if you do select a squad, you know that those players are going to blend probably better.
So when was it? You've been scouted, and you're starting your international. So after that first international tournament, from your performance, you smashed it by the sounds of it. Was that you sort of in the main squad at that point, or was it still a little bit away to go?
That was pretty much that. I think I was then pretty much in the main squad until I'd decided to retire, which was just after the World Championships in 2010. Then I got asked to come back because of the Paralympics in 2012, but I didn't get to that far.
So a fair few years, so that's 7 odd years, that's sort of...
Yeah, so overall, 9 years overall with a couple of small gaps.
Oh, fantastic. So 2008, what about those Paralympics? Were you?
We didn't qualify for that. So that first few years. So actually, the first tournament I was in 2003 was the Paralympic qualifiers for Athens in 2004, which we didn't qualify for, and then I don't even think we got to the qualifiers for 2008. So it was the kind of rebuilding over those sort of 4 or 5 years, and then we were into the cycle building up to 2012.
So it must be quite competitive then, internationally then.
Yeah, it's very competitive. It's one of these sports, and I think this is what puts a lot of people off, where I think the lower level domestic game can be quite dull to watch, can be quite dull to participate in. But then when you get to the higher level and to the international, I've spoken to family and friends who are all sighted, and they've said as a spectator sport, the high level, it's actually up there with loads of other sports because it's so fast action. There's so much going on. It's good to watch, and it's good to play at that level because it's hard work. You're having a ball thrown at you at 50, 60 mile an hour. The ball weighs 1.25 kilos, and you've got it's thrown at you from 12 meters away, and you've got half a second to react. It's good stuff.
I think I noticed that I've looked at a few YouTube videos and stuff like that of Paralympics gone, and it's just night and day when you go to the practice, and it's generally everyone's on the floor, then you throw, and then everyone's on the floor, and then they're blocking. It's very sort of slow, isn't it? It's very methodical. But then
ball's trickling along, and
and then you look at the international, and you see running side all across the court, and it's
throwing themselves around and stuff. Yeah,
and you think that's mad. You would not think that they're wearing blackout glasses, all visually impaired, but you can't see anything.
No, that's right. Yeah, no, just the awareness the players have of each other, because you've got 3 people, and they're all, because you stay down your end of the court, so you're all close together, and the way they just run around each other, they're so aware of where each other are. It's mad.
Yeah. Are there any countries that are traditionally good at it? Like Brazil's notorious for football and that sort of thing.
It's one of these really odd sports where the sort of countries who, certainly while I've been playing, and I think even up till recently, the sort of countries that are good at it are just so unexpected. You've got places like Lithuania and Hungary and Finland, and it's you've got your USA's and a couple other sort of big well-known ones, but it's mainly a lot of the obscure European countries and like China. China are very good, but it's weird. Lithuania, Hungary, Ukraine, all that sort of, Probably because, again, I think as far as if you're in these sorts of countries, if you're visually impaired, that's what you play. They don't obviously play cricket, even in sighted sort of wise, they're not big footballing countries. So I think if you're blind, that's what you play if you live in those countries. So again, they've got that larger pool of players to pick from, and it's just if you want to do sport, that is what you do. So they get good.
Yeah.
We've almost got too much choice over here.
It's like goalball's like the de facto blind sport of the world, isn't it?
I think, because it's got no comparison in the sighted world. You can play blind football or blind cricket, and you can talk to somebody else who doesn't know anything about it. You can talk to them about it, and they kind of can get it. Whereas this, you've got to explain it right from the start. I used to hate it when people would ask, if we were, I don't know, going through an airport or a station or something, and we were all kitted up, and someone would go, "Oh, what is it you're doing?" And you have to think, "Oh God, I've got to explain this whole sport and how it works, and try and make it sound good." in about 30 seconds.
So you want to explain it quickly for the listeners?
Yeah, okay. I can give it a go. Thanks.
He did that on purpose, just to get a reaction.
Oh, don't worry. Yeah.
So international, like, do you have any sort of like standout moments or favourite places, like biggest accomplishments?
My two favourite tournaments for me personally would be that first call up I got, because we went to Quebec for like 2 weeks. So it was a massive tournament. It was because it was the Paralympic qualifier, so it was multi-sport. So it was all the disabled swimmers, all the disabled athletes. It was like loads of sports, and we were all putting together. It was almost like a mini Paralympics. It was like a proper camp. We all got given like bags and bags of kit, tracksuits, and big opening ceremony and everything. So that was for my first thing. It was awesome, and also to sort of me to go in with no expectation was just really good, because I went in with no expectation. First match, I was on the bench as expected. We were playing the USA. I think we were like 7-0 down. She brought me on for some reason. When you're 7-0 down, you bring on the newbie. Like, what's he going to do? But I scored a couple, and I think we lost the game 8-4 in the end. But it was just a really good introduction, and just that whole tournament was a real eye-opener and real good experience for me. My other favourite tournament was probably the World Championships, which was in Sheffield, so we got home support. It was 2010. Everyone was getting excited about the London Paralympics. I think we came 16th out of 16. But again, I top scored. It was my last big tournament, or I thought it was at the time. Well, I thought it was going to be, and it did turn out to be, because I never got to the Paralympics. And that was amazing. My only other standout moment, I think, would be in a European Championships where we played Greece and we were 3-2 down with 5 seconds to go, and the coach called a timeout. He told me what I had to do. He told me that there was a gap that they kept leaving in a certain place, and I had to basically hit it dead on. I had to hit it by the inch, the shot, had it perfect. Ref blew the whistle to start the game again, and I hit it and I scored it, and we drew 3-3. So that was an amazing moment personally. Wow. Again.
What's it like what's it like after the games when you go on these camps? What's the nights out like?
At the end of the tournaments, then it's great. Obviously, at the end of games, if you're there for like a week and you've got games each day, or even if you have a day off, you've still got to behave. But afterwards, there's some wild nights.
Do all the different countries hang out, or is it just a case of
generally? Okay. It depends what tournaments, and it depends what countries. Certainly, when we've been to the big internationals, like the sort of worldwide sort of things, we would hang out quite a lot with the sort of guys from the States and the Aussies and the Kiwis and the Canadians. When it's the European tournaments, again, I suppose because a lot of the countries you're playing against, like your Lithuanias and Slovenias and Finlands and stuff, you don't really have, you don't hang out with them as much. Don't know if it's because of the language barrier or just a differing of culture, whereas, your people from the US, it's just pretty similar, I suppose. Have more in common.
Do you get to wander around the country a little bit as well, or are you there like all business?
It's pretty much all business. Mainly all business. Depends. I think we've been to a couple where we did have sort of days off where we got to explore a bit, but most of them, I've been to lots of weird and wonderful countries and seen not a lot apart from an airport, a hotel, and a sports centre. So, which is a shame.
Was it all funded, the internationals?
Yeah. I think I certainly don't remember paying anything. Yeah, no, it was pretty much, yeah.
That's quite rare, like, especially when you hear things, like, even with Paralympics, like, some sports are, like, doing GoFundMes, even for Japan, because they have no funding. It's like, we just need to get there. It's like, wow, that's...
Yeah, no, it is sad. And I do think, from what I've heard in the last few years, I think it's been very much the same. And I know the women's GB Goalball squad have certainly had to do that a lot over the years. They've had to fund, which is especially sad because they're the more successful out of the two teams. They've sort of medalled in Europeans and things like that. So it is a shame. It's just that these sports aren't getting the support that your mainstream stuff does.
As you
People
said,
work just as hard.
When you're looking at it, like, as a spectator side of things, for the internationals, it is exciting. So, like, surely money can be generated through that way for the sport. Now it's never been easier with streaming services and stuff like that. So surely there's got to be something that can be done.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you? You'd like to think so. I guess a lot of it is with disability sport, because it's most of the funding comes from like your lottery grants or Sport England, which is the big organisation that kind of funds a lot of the sporting stuff. If the sport itself, it's not, I suppose, about whether it can sell tickets or anything, or whether it's going to be spectated. It's how much potential the specific team has got to perform well in a big competition, and we're just not that good.
Why is that though? Do you think is that down to lack of funding though? That they can't get the people?
Well, this is the catch-20. Yeah, it's a vicious cycle, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think there are elements of it. I certainly know when with one of the coaches we had who was really big on trying to push like the not professionalizing, but certainly trying to make it more professional. He wanted sort of the top players to be centralized, sort of live near each other, sort of train together, sort of weekly, week in, week out. But again, the money was never there for it. So if you just need, I think, someone who's got the drive and the willpower to have the good ideas that can be sort of given to the funding bodies that they're gonna like and they're gonna accept. And it's just too obscure a sport, obscure a sport, and there's just no one who can be bothered, I don't think, or has got that kind of devotion to it.
That is a shame. It's crazy how there's just no funding for any of these sports. So 2010 rocks around and you retired. So what put on the retirement? Was it just sort of family commitments, or have you just had enough of it at that point?
I think mainly family. I felt it was difficult. I felt like I was still at the top of my game, but I had 2 kids by then, and I was getting married a couple of weeks after that. And I thought that was enough. I needed to focus on family life. And that did. I mean, that lasted about 3 months. And they asked me to come back. They wanted a good team for the Paralympics. They had a new coach after the 16 in the World Championship. So new coach, load of new players, new ideas, and they wanted still the core of the team that had potential to still be successful. I suppose they still wanted them around, so they did ask me to come back, which I did for a while. Obviously, we were building up to the Paralympics. Got to, I think, April 2012, and that's when I got my shoulder injury, and that took me out then, and that was it. I wasn't going to be ready to compete, so I retired for good then.
Devastated, mate. Like, devastated, especially when the injury takes you out of it. Yeah, and even though you had all your other sort of things, you had your family, and like I imagine like that was balancing. It's going to be tough at the best times, and then for an injury being the end all, and it wasn't on your terms necessarily. Yeah,
I think that was. There's a big part of me that kind of wished I'd stuck to my guns and stopped when I sort of said I was going to, but I loved all the build up to the Paralympics, and I was absolutely gutted that I wasn't. I didn't make it, didn't get that far, because it would have been. I mean, that would have been an amazing experience. That would have been one of those. It's one of those once in a lifetime phenomenal experiences. At the home Paralympics would have been awesome, but wasn't to be. I've made my peace with that. It's all good. So we lost anyway. We were rubbish. I was better off out of it.
Oh, they didn't have you, Rich. That's what.
That's it. That's exactly it, and that's what I can keep saying. I said, they would have been fine if I'd been playing.
They had a track record of one of those like Disney sport film finishes. Like,
that's it.
Bringing it back. So that's what you need sometimes.
It is.
So, as sort of like for the summary of your career, like, would you say you enjoyed it? I know that a lot of these sports come with a lot of political sides of things. I suppose what I'm trying to drive at is there anything that you would improve, or anything that you look back and you could think, that could have been better, like either from like what you could put in or the system could have done for you, like as the actual sport itself?
I do think that more funding would have helped. I think for me, that was one of the reasons I originally chose to retire, because of the family, and wanting to spend more time with my family, but also having to pay yourself to travel to the camps, which were all over the country, and having to pay to play in your domestic tournaments. And at the club level, you you would have just been like a team of 3 or 4 of you, and it was up to you to, you had no coaches. It was you who did it all yourself. So you paid for your tournament entries, you paid for your train fares, you paid for your hotels. And I just couldn't keep saying, I'm not going to be here this weekend, that weekend, and the other, and I'm going to be taking money off, off the family to do that. I think that could have been better. I think if there was money for that, it would have made a big difference to a lot of people, certainly to me. I loved every minute of it. I wouldn't change any of what I did. It was brilliant. It was great to be, to say I was an international sportsman is always something that I will be grateful for. I just think we're not as geared up for a sport like that than a lot of other countries. I think we put a lot of effort into our disabled athletics teams and our disabled swimming teams and things like that, because they are more mainstream and because they can coincide with the normal stuff. I think a lot of the other things are just swept under the carpet a bit more. They're not cool.
And it's a shame, because from what I played of goalball, and I just did it for a bit of fun. Like, it was never any. When I gave it a go, I was 32. I thought, this is not something you're ever going to get anywhere with, but have some fun with it. And it's a shame because I enjoyed playing it, and I've enjoyed watching what I have of it as well. And I think a lot of people would find enjoyment in watching it as a sport.
Do you think if they got goalball into just normal schools rather than like blind and visually impaired schools, and kids just start to play it generally, sighted or not, that would help out?
It's possible. It is possible. I mean, because throughout sort of my career and even slightly afterwards, I've been into schools. I've been to sports clubs. I've been to like Cubs and Scouts, and I've done like taster sessions with them. And I've not had one where the kids. Every time the kids have loved it. They've always really enjoyed it. They've been like, "This is so cool. This is so different, so fun,
yeah,
and exciting." And kids just love throwing themselves around on the floor, diving at a ball. It could make a difference, but again, it's people to do it. That's going to always be the problem. That's always going to be a sticking point. Is money and the people who have got the time and the commitment.
Yeah, and I suppose then you've got like the stigma of it, because it is very much, it's not an adapted sport, it's an actual visually impaired sport. And maybe after these sessions, it's like, oh, that was really fun, but exactly. I'm not visually impaired.
So what's the relevance to me?
Yeah, it's like, do I have the right to play this? It's like, well, you're all on an even playing field. I mean, maybe not at a competitive level. I mean, otherwise you'll never get any visually impaired people competing.
Yeah.
But maybe like at a competitive level, you draw the line. But I don't know, maybe there is a place for it on the curriculum at schools, and then just, I don't know, incorporating fully sighted kids into the domestic game, perhaps to get the numbers up.
Yeah, I mean, the domestic game, the actual rules for the British, unless it's changed when I played, there's nothing stopping sighted people playing. It's only international that you can't play if you're fully sighted. Great Britain domestic goalball has always been open to two-sighted people. Obviously, there aren't many that have done it, but there have been a few, usually family and friends and stuff, that have fell in love with it as well, and they've donned a blindfold and gone for it. So
the ones with the ones with guts, the brave ones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I imagine nothing scares anyone off quicker than you misjudge it, you put your arms out, and then you get that ball straight in the chops.
Yeah, not nice.
No. I can imagine, but what's it like getting hit at international level? So you said that's 50, 60 miles an hour.
It can hurt. It's amazing. Sometimes it will just, I guess, again, like a lot of sports, it's all about your technique. If you've got your technique spot on, it should not hurt. There are certain places it can. I mean, you wear a cricket box, but if you get hit in certain areas, it can be still uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's still not nice. I know of someone who got hit there with their box on. The ball split the box, and then they got themselves stuck. It caught in the split.
Oh.
And that was nasty. Yeah, it closed back up around them.
Oh, that's
cross your legs. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I thought blind cricket had some of its horrible moments. Are there any sort of moments that stand out? Sort of like funny moments or situations that happen sort of on the court, off the court?
I think there was times we might have messed about, especially playing domestically when we knew we were playing against weaker teams. I think the most ridiculous thing we did, and we got quite a lot of trouble for it, was when we were playing in a round robin, and we'd worked out, one of the lads in our team was quite a good mathematician. He'd worked out all his statistics, and he worked out if we lost our final match, we would get an easier semi-final. So we threw the match. We just stood there, let them score. But yeah, the governing body we got in a lot of trouble for that sort of match fixing. But yeah, we won the tournament, so hey ho.
So you say max fixing, and all I can think is like you're all just standing at the post, like visor, glasses down, just like just standing here, like having a cup of tea, just like.
Yeah, pretty much. We just stood there, let them score, then we just threw it back to them, let them do it again.
Wow.
We were quite obvious. We were quite blatant about it. I think if we'd done it well and made it look like an accident, we'd have got away with it. But we weren't that sensible. So that was quite amusing.
Oh, so a great career then. Like it sounds like you've had a great career. I mean, you captained a fair bit as well, didn't you?
I captained at Junior International for a couple of our big tournaments. So I never captained at senior because there was always one of the other lads who was much more captain material than I was. I was just goal scorer.
Sometimes I guess that with disabled sports anyway, especially with VI sports, isn't it? Like who I suppose it comes down to legacy more than anything. I'm just thinking like international, like blind cricket. If you look at the team over the last 15, 20 years, you'll see the same 6 or 7 names every single time, and it has never changed. Institution, that's what it is.
Yeah, it is exactly what it is, yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thanks for coming on, Rich. It's been great to chat to you, mate. We've known each other a fair old time now.
Yeah, thank you. It's been cool.
Yeah, it'd be great having you and just sort of find out a bit more about Goalball outside of the brief Googling that I did about Goalball. And if you want to know more about Rich, tough. He's a busy man. Get in line. Well, thanks for coming on, Rich.
Thank you, guys.
I'll chat to you soon. Now, wasn't that fun and informative, Cleves? Again, I sound really disingenuous.
It's so patronising.
I know.
Wasn't that great, folks? Let me pat you on the head and feed you a biscuit.
Literally, I mean that really sincerely. It's just really awkward coming back from something we've pre-recorded and then we're doing the wraparound sort of post.
Do you know who else gets wrapped around a post? Blind drivers.
They do. And blind goalball players, if they fuck up a save. Yeah, there's still goalposts. And they're made of metal.
Most posts are made of metal.
They could be made of plastic.
I guess.
Or wood.
Oh yeah, wooden posts.
Or hard rubber.
That's a dildo you're thinking of.
We can't incorporate that into any blind games. That's a completely different thing.
Dildo baseball?
I mean, the bat's really small.
Not the ones I use.
Well, I had fun.
You will do it the next game.
Oh, God.
Next week?
Next week is going to be a surprise. Actually, it's not going to be a surprise.
No, let's let them know in advance.
We are going to review a documentary. You can find it on All 4. It's called Blind Young Things. So if you want to go through the documentary and hear our thoughts on it, this is a documentary that I have some cameos in, and we'll be chatting about that next week. You can find it on All 4, which if you're not in the UK, just Google it. All 4 is a channel.
Free.
Yeah, you start for free, just with an email address. It's called Blind Young Things, about the blind college that me and Cleves went to. We were there at the time. Cleves wasn't in the documentary.
Only T and Horace made the documentary.
Horace is in one of the first scenes. He doesn't say anything, but he is in one of the first scenes. And I shot a couple of times. So that's going to be next week for Once and Not Surprised. Do your homework. There will be a test.
Until then.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Seesaw Podcast.
You can find us on Facebook at Seesaw Podcast, Twitter, Seesaw Pod, You can email us at seesawpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on TikTok and Instagram at Seesaw Podcast or Seesaw Pod, depending on which one we want. But get us on the other places. This podcast was recorded in front of a blind audience. I'm not doing it again. You fucking blueboard me last time.